Hey everyone, welcome back to the Prescription to Travel MD podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Courtney Downs, ER doc, travel lover, and big believer that time off isn't optional. It is essential. I am also a believer that what you do with your time off matters. And for me, this means taking time to rest and reset. And oftentimes in my case, this means travel or finding a way to step away from your day to day. Today, I'm chatting with Deb Dunman. She's a licensed therapist who shares my enthusiasm for healing others as well as my love of travel and points and helping others create strategy around earning and booking with those points. I think that when you're deciding to do something, it's important to understand why you're doing it. So before we jump into our conversation, I want to share with you three quick reasons you should consider using your points for your next hotel stay. And it's all going to make sense shortly. So, reason number one, using points lets you save your cash for experiences. So, it's the meals, the adventures, the memories, instead of just paying for the room. And I'm currently trying to decide if it's worth it to spend the cash cost of a week stay somewhere on theme park tickets. Wild, right? And you know what? After our interview, I reminded myself that, it's not about booking a trip and paying $0. Although it's nice when it happens that way, but acknowledging that I don't have to pay for the hotel for the rest of our vacation. I won't have to pay for breakfast because I have status. I was able to book our flights largely on points. So this gives me the opportunity to be able to splurge on this experience that I know once my kids find out about, they're going to be really looking forward to. And financially, I know it's okay. And I feel better knowing that the cost of my overall trip is still significantly lower than it would have been 5 years ago before I really seriously got into points and miles. And it's not breaking the bank. And it's an experience that I can give my family and value that could be added to our overall time together. And so I think my brain takes comfort in knowing that I didn't pay full price for the rest of my trip for what it's worth. Reason number two, it opens the door to higher end properties that you might not normally splurge on. Think bucket list stays for a fraction of the cost. So maybe I wouldn't pay $2,000 a night for a hotel, but 60,000 points isn't unreasonable for me. And those same points, if I cash them out in the portal or use as cash back, would be like the equivalent of $600. So need I say more? Reason number three, it gives you flexibility. So many award bookings are easier to change or cancel than paid rates, which is perfect for those of us with busy and sometimes changing schedules. For those of us who really value flexibility, having this feature is clutch. And in today's episode, Deb and I talk about exactly how to make that happen. From the best tools for finding and booking hotels on points to how to know when a redemption is actually worth it, and even how to earn extra points on those cash bookings for your next getaway. It's a very fun and practical episode that's packed with tips that you can start using right away. So let's get into it. Hey, Deb. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for joining me on the Prescription to Travel MD podcast. So I had the chance to meet you earlier this month at Travel More Con, and I just knew that there were so many people who would gain so much from hearing from you. And I'd really love for the audience to really just get to know you. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here and also just get to talk with another healthcare professional. So my name is Deb Dunman, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker. That's my full-time job. And I also really love points and miles and have made that into like my hobby that brings me a lot of joy and helps me have work-life balance with being in the healthcare system. And so yeah, basically, I have just fallen into this hobby as a way to continue to travel for less, but have really amazing high quality trips and reduce the amount of burnout that I experience being a therapist.
Yeah, because burnout is a real thing. It's a real thing in emergency medicine. It's a real thing in medicine and a lot of like the healthcare field. But as a therapist who's dealing with people with significant amount of trauma, I'm sure you bear a lot of that on yourself. And so getting away from all that, I'm sure is very important.
Yes. Yeah, that's something that is talked about, thankfully, like a good bit in the training that you go through to become a therapist is like it's so important to have self-care and to have boundaries between like your work and your personal life and being able to travel more often with points and miles has really helped me to keep those boundaries in place and make sure that it's a sustainable career because I'm sure it takes a long time to become a healthcare professional. And so it's really sad when people burn out early on in their careers because the goal is like that's what you want to do with your life. And so that's why I love traveling because it's like, okay, this allows me to stay in this field for a long time.
Right, right. And so what got you interested in travel and points and miles?
Yeah, so I will say as a child, I did not travel very often, but I really enjoyed reading and I learned a lot about the world through books. And I just really loved learning about different cultures and stories about people from all over the world, and just always thought it would be so fun to be able to actually see those places in person. And so I think that really inspired my like curiosity for travel. And then as far as getting into points and miles, I actually was dating someone a little over 4 years ago, and their family lived in Peru. And so it was quite the ordeal to actually be able to go and meet their family. And because of that, I started kind of looking for ways that I could do that for less money. And what I knew about at the time was just like look for flight deals, do it as cheap as possible. And that is what I had always done. And I actually stumbled across an Instagram account. It was Aunt Kara, and she was talking about, "Oh, if you get this credit card, you can, redeem it for, like, $1,000 worth of travel." And I was like, "Perfect. I can go on this trip." So that allowed me to actually go to Peru, and after that, I was like, "Oh, this is super cool. Like, I could replicate this," and that's how I got into it for the first time, and I've been really obsessed with it ever since.
Wow, so Aunt Kara got you your first points redemption then, huh?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Good deal. So I've never heard of Aunt Kara before. Is she, like, on, like, Instagram or
She's on Instagram and she talks kind of about the intersection of like points and miles, but also being smart with like your money. So she talks about like the choices that she made to be financially responsible as a professional and then just adds in points and miles to it. So I it's not like she has a huge account. She's a professional, she has her own thing, but that resonated with me a lot, like wanting to be responsible but still wanting to enjoy my life. And then after that, I like went down the rabbit hole.
as many of us do, I'm sure. Yeah, and I love that the intersection of being financially responsible and using points and miles, and so that's a big thing that I emphasize with people. If you're going to get into the points and miles game, you have to be responsible because it's a big responsibility to have all these credit cards and know that you have to pay them off every month and, hold yourself accountable for that. But it can also be very rewarding, and it can be a tool to be able to achieve some of your financial goals long term. You don't have to sacrifice, buying that house or, making investments into your retirement account and travel. You can do both and you can do it more affordably. So,
Yes, yes, totally. And that's why I love it, because it's also reduced the amount of stress about making a trip like the best possible. Like, oh, I have to do everything because it's a once in a lifetime trip. I feel a lot less stress about that because I know that if I really wanted to go back somewhere, I can because of points and miles.
and so tell me a little bit about your process. When you're planning a trip now, how do you start planning a trip? So it's nice. So your first trip, you knew that there was a reason for you wanting to go to Peru. You wanted to meet your significant others, family members. But in general, what do you usually do to determine how to plan a trip?
Yeah, so there's two sides to that. One is like if I have a specific reason to go somewhere. So travel more is a great example of that. I was like, I know I need to be in New Orleans. I know I need to go these dates and I need to be in a specific area. So that's pretty cut and dry for me. I used a tool that I like called Gondola, and I just looked like, okay, here's the points currencies that I have and here's what's available for the dates. This looks like a good deal. It was pretty easy and simple. What I actually really love to do, and this is like something that some people might agree with depending on your like travel style. What I love to do is like look for like opportunities. So be really open-ended with like when I could go, where I want to go, and just be like, what can I do? And if it's open-ended, that's when I've been able to find some really like fun properties to stay at. And still I'll use Gondola for that. Sometimes I'll also just look at Points and Miles blogs, like what's the best use of choice points? What's the best use of Wyndham points? Just to like learn about what kind of redemptions are possible and then just, like, okay, what could I do? What looks good? And then go from there. So depends on the type of trip I'm doing.
And tell us a little bit about Gondola for those of us who aren't familiar with it.
Yeah, so Gondola is a really cool tool that allows you to search, either do an open-ended or a specific search, and it will tell you what hotels are available that you could book using your points and miles or cash. You can do it in either way. And it will also tell you if it's a good redemption. So I really like that because especially with hotel programs, the reasonable redemption rate for different hotel programs is very different. Like it's very varied by program. And so I liked being able to see like, okay, this is a good use of Hilton points versus this is a good use of Hyatt points. And it's a nice way to kind of open up like what's possible. So usually I'll go to Gondola just to kind of get a big broad overview of like what could I do. And then actually if you book through Gondola, they will monitor the trip, and if something like drops in price, they'll notify you. If you do a cash booking, you'll get like a certain amount of cash back, which is really cool. And it's a direct booking, so you don't have to worry about anything third party. So it's a nice platform for searching and booking travel, and kind of organizing the points that you have in one place.
Very nice. And you can use Gondola for hotels and flights, or is it just for hotels? Or
So it is primarily for hotels, but you can connect your email and they will also watch your flights. And if the flight drops in price, they'll also let you know about that. So you're not booking the flight through them, but they can still help you with like kind of monitoring it, which is a helpful feature.
very cool. And so you mentioned that it's direct booking. So direct booking as opposed to booking through something like Expedia or like booking.com where you're not booking directly with the hotel. And why is that important?
So yeah, this is a really good topic to talk about. And in my first few points and miles redemptions, I booked through portals, so like a credit card portal, and that was usually like 1 point ratio. And that can be fine. Where you can run into some difficulties is, let's say you have a specific hotel loyalty program that you're a part of. If you're not booking directly, you might miss out on any benefits that you would have because of like status or even just being a member of that program. Also, if there's any issues, sometimes you'll run into problems because the hotel will be like, well, you booked through Expedia, and Expedia will be like, but you need to talk to the hotel. So booking directly kind of alleviates a lot of those potential issues if anything goes wrong with your travel. And then also, if you do care about status, it allows you to still work towards status and have all those benefits. Whereas when you're not booking directly, sometimes you lose those benefits. So that's why I really like being able to book directly.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times people will say, yeah, don't book through the portal and, you always want to book direct. Sometimes I'll book through the portals, like specifically through Chase or Amex portals, which I think give you a little bit more control. And then you can still put in, like, if you're trying to get status with Hyatt, you can still put in your loyalty number and you'll still get, you know, credit for those stays. But yeah, you do have to be careful booking through some of the other portals, like Capital One. I know people have had issues with that one, or some of the off-brand booking sites. So that's good to know. Deal.
I was gonna tell you, and it's okay if you put this somewhere else in the episode, but you had a question about what are like some really cool places that you've stayed or cool redemptions. And I was gonna say the one time that I have used the portal and I thought it was actually a really good value is I have a Capital One Venture X card, and they have a like premium stay program. I forget the exact wording of it, but if you book like through that program, through their portal, you get like $100 credit with your stay, and usually some extra perks like late checkout time, sometimes a welcome gift. And a couple times I've used that because the feature comes with the card, and I've been able to like use my $300 credit to book a hotel and then get like $100 credit on top of it, and had some cool redemptions that way. So there's always an exception to the rule, but if you have that card, it's a good feature, and I don't know how many people know about it.
Yeah, and I tend to not be a rule follower when it comes to, like, booking hotels and booking through the portal. I have never booked a flight through the portal, but booking hotels, I'll usually just go ahead and, take a chance, and sometimes it just means calling the hotel or confirming that, "Hey, have you received my reservation?" So I know I'm not gonna show up someplace and not have one. And then we went to Disney last year. we use our $300 Capital One credit to book our Disney hotel. Then we could still get early entry onto the parks, which is big for us because we're big Disney rope drop fans. So, like, I wanna be able to get in there as soon as I can, and I knew I had, like, this $300 credit, and I'm like, "Well, what else am I gonna use it for?" Because, some of the other rules for hotels where I have status that may not apply. So, very cool. Yes. So, I think we're both rule breakers when it comes to that. And so you mentioned something about making sure, like, sometimes when you're booking through the portals, you're gonna get, like, 1 cent per point. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and, like, what you aim for when you're booking your hotels?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think something that could be confusing for a lot of people. So there is something called the reasonable redemption value that changes per program. So Gondola has, like, a built-in, feature when you're using their tool, and it will tell you, like, how many cents per point and if it's good or not. So green is, like, good, and then if it's, like, orange, it's, like, okay. If it's red, it's, like, that's not a good use of your points if you care about cents per point or reasonable redemption rate. But also Frequent Miler, the blog, has a page that they update regularly that, they basically do some math. They look at the program, and they do this for, like, transferable points, airline, and hotels, and they will say, based on, like, the redemptions that you can do, this is how much these points are worth, like, in cents, and if you care about getting cents per point, I try to, like, make sure that my redemption rate is at least that, like, reasonable redemption value or higher if I'm gonna choose whether to pay cash or use points.
Right. And do you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So October 26th, they decided that the points boost feature was going away, which I was a little sad about. So most of the time, so if you're not familiar with it, Chase Sapphire Reserve holders will have the ability to book through the portal if they wish. And instead of getting 1 cent per point, which is what most of your points are going to get if you're booking through a portal, you get like 1.5 cents per point through a feature called Points Boost. And the Points Boost is going away or went away on October the 26th. So it doesn't apply to you if you're transferring your points out. So most of my Chase points go to Hyatt hotels, and I book, Hyatt hotel stays for really good value. But if you're looking at a non-Hyatt hotel or a hotel like the Four Seasons or some of the other luxury hotels that aren't associated with any particular, points program, you can't book them with points. It's a feature that can come in handy. So we were looking at like the one hotel in Kauai when we went there this summer, and I was very tempted to go ahead and just, use Points Boost because I knew I could still get really good value and stay at a really nice hotel that I couldn't otherwise book with the points that I had. So I was a little sad about that.
Yeah, and you make a good point also when it comes to using the portal or really any kind of, like, platform. It's just always good to compare, like, what would it be to redeem these points, through IHG versus what would it be to redeem them through Chase or Capital or not Capital One, like, through Chase. What would the points cost be? Because sometimes it might actually be less to redeem it, like, at a rate of 1 cent per point than to go through IHG. So, again, there's always, like, exceptions to every rule, especially with hotels.
So how do you keep track of all of this? I feel like keeping track of points and programs and where to transfer things to can be a full-time job. So do you have like any tips or tricks for staying organized?
I have a spreadsheet that has all my trips that I'm planning, and it has, like, categories, so it'll have, like, flight, hotel, if there was, like, a train or rental car, like, transportation, any specific, like, entertainment that I wanna do, and I'll, like, update the color if I've booked that thing, so that just helps me keep organized with, like, what I've done, what I haven't done, and then I will say, like, Gondola, if you link your email and you link your accounts, it will say like, "Oh, you have this many points in the hotel programs," which is helpful. But honestly, what I do to keep track of it is I'm just, like, frequently running searches and booking travel, so I have, like, a general idea of what I have just because I am, like, pretty frequently applying all the skills and I'm, like, actually using the tools. So, yeah, multiple things.
I'm intrigued by this gondola program. So, do you have like any upcoming trips that you have planned now? And maybe you can like walk us through your process with that particular trip, like using gondola.
Yeah, so actually a good one and really, like, an easy one, I'm going to Puerto Rico in January, and I'm going on a cruise, so I only needed a hotel for 1 night, And I did actually do this through Gondola. So I would search Puerto Rico, San Juan, like where I'm flying into, and then I would search the specific dates and see what came up. And then what I would do, then I would filter by like what programs I have. So I have some points right now in Wyndham and an IHG, and then I have like a few Hyatt points. So I would like filter specifically by that and then see what looks like a good value. And then specifically, I ended up booking a Wyndham property, which not many people talk about Wyndham, but there is a hotel. It's really close to the airport. It is 3.5 stars, it has pretty good reviews, and it's a redemption rate of 1.22 cents per point. So that's like really good for Wyndham. So I could actually like click on it and book directly through Gondola, but they would book with Wyndham for me. So that's kind of my process for finding a hotel to stay at before my cruise.
Okay, nice. And so I think that's really nice. What I like about a lot of these search tools is that they allow you to have like these open-ended searches. So if you don't have a particular hotel chain that you're, stuck on, and that's me most of the time. Like I love Hyatt. I'm a big Hilton fan, but I also love Marriott and some of the other hotels that you can't book with points. Most of the time I end up staying at a Hyatt just because you just get so much value from those points. But there are times when I'm like, I want something a little fancier and in this place that I'm going to, or they don't have a Hyatt, and then it's like, "Okay, what do I do next?" So
I like using tools for word searches because it's a lot less for me to keep track of. Like, I don't have to know everything about every program or every country. It's just like, okay, like, let me just get an idea and then I can go from that basic like idea rather than doing all the work and that would take to research all of that like really quick, get some results and then go from there.
yeah, which is very important, especially if you're just starting out in this game, and there are a lot of us who do like to do we running searches all the time, but there are a lot of people who are just like, "I don't wanna put that much work and effort into planning a trip." Like, I know I wanna go to this place, and I know I have, 3 months over the summer where I can potentially go. So help me find a trip, help me find a hotel to stay at. And so having tools like that just at your disposal makes all the difference, so
Yes, yes, it really helps to simplify the process.
So, what are some of the common mistakes that you see people making when trying to book hotels and doing these type of searches and redemption?
Yeah. So, broadly, I would say not having a strategy or using the wrong strategy. And what I mean by that is um, if you are not flexible at all, uh, it's going to be really hard to have fun with points and miles. So, if you're like, I want to go to this place, I want to stay at the Hyatt Regency, and only these dates, like, that is really gonna make it a lot more stressful, a lot harder for you. Whereas if you're flexible, like you just said, "I have 3 months, I wanna go somewhere in Europe, and I have 3 points currencies," you're gonna have a lot more options, it'll probably be a lot more fun to book that trip. So that, like, maybe your strategy is, like, "I'm really flexible, I'm okay with going different places," or, "I just wanna be at a beach." And then the other thing is, like, having unrealistic expectations or not setting award alerts. Let's say, you do wanna save time, you don't wanna be sitting all day, like, looking through all this stuff. You can save yourself a lot of time and frustration by setting up award alerts, and when people don't do that, I feel like it's a mistake and a way to, like, increase your frustration, so
So, are there other programs that you use other than Gondola?
yeah, so I use rooms.arrow for setting award alerts. It is a program that, like, kinda partners with seats.arrow, a lot more people are familiar with that tool, and if you have a specific property that you're interested in, but they don't have the availability you're looking for yet, you can set an alert for that property, so it's property specific, and you can just set it and wait, so especially if you're planning ahead, that's really nice, and then they'll notify you when that availability opens up, and then also you can use it to look and see, like, what's reasonable, are my expectations too high here? So, like, if you're like, "I wanna stay at this property and only pay 50,000 points," you can actually look at the calendar and see if there's, like, any nights in the whole year that are 50,000 points to know if you're even having, like, a reasonable expectation for how you're trying to use your points.
Right. And sometimes you can't find points redemptions for hotels that you wanna stay at, and in those cases, you just have to bite the bullet and pay cash, right? So, if you are gonna pay cash for a hotel, which cards are you using to do that?
Okay. If I book through a card portal, it used to be Chase Sapphire Reserve. I would say probably I would choose the Capital One Venture X because they have like a multiplier for how many points you'll get per dollar that you spend booking through the portal. And then my other answer would be that I would use the card that I'm trying to earn a sign up bonus on. Usually that's my strategy. If I'm going to spend like more than $100, I might want that to go towards my sign up bonus. So I'll just use that card, not worry about the multiplier, and more like be excited about the sign up bonus I'm earning.
And so what's your favorite go-to card now in your wallet?
If I'm booking flights, it's still Chase Sapphire Reserve because they have good travel insurance. If it's like an everyday purchase that is not like at a grocery store, Venture X. And I'm trying to get status with Alaska right now. So I've been using that Atmos card quite a bit just to earn status. So I'm not really focusing on the points as much. I'm more focusing on the status. So I'm putting spend on that for that reason.
Okay, good deal, and that's did you get the Summit card?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, good deal, and so how does that work with earning status for your spend on that card?
Yeah, so it's for every $2 you spend, you earn 1 status point, and I think I'm at, like, 17,000 and I have to get to 20,000, so if I just was spending money from now to the end of the year, I would have to spend $6,000 to get 3,000 status points, but that would allow me to have status, and so if you weren't flying at all, it wouldn't make any sense, but if you are like, "Oh, I'm really close," that's a good way to get it without having to fly more.
Okay, and then why do we care about status for Alaska?
Why I care about it is because I, live at an American Airlines hub. I live really close to DFW Airport, which is a big American Airlines hub, and Alaska is in the same alliance, the same airline alliance as American Airlines, and so that status will also, allow me to have like a level of recognition with American Airlines and some points or not points, some perks when I am flying American Airlines, which I do a lot because I live here.
Yeah, so it's a great card, so even if you're not flying to Alaska, you hear this and you're like, "Why would I want an Alaska card? I'm not going to Alaska, I'm not" based on the West Coast, which, a lot of the Alaska airline flights will take depart from. Alaska card can still be a win, and I think the card has gotten a lot of hype over, like, the last few months, and I think it's a good thing. I think it was a new card that brought the opportunity to book airlines that you couldn't book you know, through other routes, such as American airline flights, which can be pretty difficult if you don't have American airline points. I love that that card allows you to earn, like, 3 times back on all of your international purchases, so if you're going abroad and you're going to be making, some big purchases, or if you I know there are a lot of people who are based in the US but live abroad, that can be a great card because 3 times back on, like, everything that you're buying? So I'm really excited about the Summit program. I actually feel like I need to apply for one of the cards myself. I'm always, like, sitting on the fence of, like, do I apply for a new card? Do I not apply for a new card? And I told myself I was gonna slow down, but I think if I get a new card, that'll probably be my next one, so
Yeah, yeah, I like it. I'll put a plug in for the Alaska mileage plan. Something that's really important, just in points and miles in general, is just like if you see a good deal, take advantage of it now because the rules are always changing and like the redemptions are always changing. But as of today, Alaska can be a great award program because it is distance based. So all of the redemptions are based on like how far you're flying. So if you're in like a certain amount of miles that you're flying, their awards can be as low as like 4,500 points for a one-way domestic flight. So that is like incredible value. Or if you're flying a little bit further, like most of my flights that I have to take are 7,500 points for a one-way flight, but that's still usually like half of what I would have to pay even if I was using American Airlines miles. So because it's distance based, you can use that to your advantage. And as of today, it's a very good value usually.
like, as of today, that's an important disclaimer because everything in points and miles is, like, always changing, and you have to be willing to adapt and just know that like, what you are working towards today might not be available for you when you actually go and spend your points, so, yeah.
And something I like to encourage people that's really different when you're using points versus when you're using cash is that many programs will allow you to cancel with no penalty. So, not every program. It's still important to look at what program you're using, but a lot of them, it's not like if you book a flight and you can only get like maybe credit or maybe you can't get any refund. A lot of points flights and points hotels that you book, you can book speculatively if you find a good deal. And as long as you make sure, you read the terms of that program, a lot of times you can cancel for no penalty. So sometimes it just makes sense to like go ahead and book if you see a good deal and then cancel later.
Yeah, especially with some of, like, the domestic programs. I know some of, like, the international programs will charge you a fee, like, Air France charges you, like, $100 if you cancel. I think it's the same for, like, Virgin, and I know that Alaska, they do charge you a fee to actually book your, award flight, but if you have the Summit card, my understanding is that that fee is waived. Is that right?
That's what I have heard. I'm not sure how the implementation is going on that. And honestly, because for me, like time is probably my most valuable commodity, I haven't like been calling them to ask them to refund it. But that is how it's supposed to work.
Okay. Yeah, I know booked a couple of flights through Alaska program this summer, and I had to cancel, and I mean, they charge you it was like a $12.50 fee, so it wasn't like, it wasn't big, but that was the fee to actually book it, and it wasn't refundable. But it's just good to keep in mind, especially if you're booking for, like, a lot of people, you have a huge family or, friends that you're booking for, and then you have to cancel. Sometimes that can be, a deterrent or at least something that makes you think, makes you hesitate. So
Yes. 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 Totally.
do you have any upcoming trips on the horizon that you're, like, really excited about?
Yeah. So something I'm pretty excited about is I'm going to the Atlantis Resort in the Bahamas in November. And that was actually part of a casino merry-go-round, that I did through my Wyndham Business Earner card. And a few years ago, I went to the Bahamas with some family members, and we visited that hotel, and I just remember thinking, "Oh, this is so beautiful, like, how cool." And then because of being able to earn that trip with my Wyndham Business Earner card and, like, some status matching, I'm gonna get to go stay at that resort, and I just think it'll be really fun to, like, go back and actually stay there. So I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about my cruise coming up in January, all around Puerto Rico.
Nice, that'll be fun. Yeah, I have a bone to pick with Wyndham, so I actually have the Wyndham the business earner card, and I canceled it. It just took so long to get approved for the card, and then they approved me, but I didn't know that I'd been approved. So, when I got the card and the date that they sent me the email saying, "Hey, welcome," didn't match with the date that I had, actually was approved for the card, and there were all these issues, so I didn't earn the welcome bonus, and then so then I missed out. They had a status match that was going on at the Wynn here in Las Vegas.
Okay, yeah, oh, yeah, because 'cause you're, like, right with all the casinos, that's, like, perfect for you.
The only reason I got the card is because I'm like, "I want this Wynn status match," and then if you stayed, like, a couple nights at the Wynn, then it would get you, like, a free cruise and free parking. Like, I had to pay for parking the other day at one of the hotels, and it was, like, $40 for parking, and I was just like, "Wyndham." So, I'm like it was really sad because I'm like, though so I knowing that I wouldn't have to pay for parking at these hotels and when they charge you, like, $40 just to, show up as a local to be able to park and go inside the casino and, like, hang out with friends or, go to dinner was, like, a huge selling point for me getting that card. And then I had the Venture card, so I'm like, "Oh, look, I've got Wyndham points and I can book, like, vacation rentals," but I was like, "You know what? You can have your card back." So, yeah, so I'm not on good terms with Wyndham right now. But I'm glad that you were able to take advantage of the merry-go-round and that you get a chance to go and experience the Bahamas and do all these amazing things.
Yeah, yeah, I'm excited. It's just one of those things of, like, "Oh, this is an opportunity," and I decided to do it, and now, like, almost a year later, I'm getting to enjoy the, like, fruit of that, so long-term planning.
I love it. Well, Deb, this was so much fun. I'm really glad that you came on the show. I loved hearing about your stories, and It opened my eyes to a new program that I'll be looking at when I start looking to book hotels in the future. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all of this with us. I know that you have services that you offer to people as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So my two offerings right now are strategy consults and trip consults. So if you're doing a strategy consult, you would come on, tell me a little bit about like what it is that you want to do in the future. And then I would help you make a strategy for how you would earn the points to make that thing happen. And then a trip consult would be like, Deb, I have these points. What can I do with them? I can give you some ideas. Here's some amazing ways to redeem the points and based on like what you like. So if you're like, I'm a beach person and I have 200,000 Capital One miles, what can I do? Then I can walk you through like, here's what you can do without you having to go through all the time and frustration it might take to figure that out.
For sure, for sure. And the beauty about points and miles in these communities is that there are so many of us who are out there who are doing these things. I offer similar services. So just know that you have like all these opportunities available to you. So if Deb resonates with you, certainly reach out to her and let her help get you on your way. You don't have to be sitting there with your points and miles and using them for gift cards and, cashing them out to cover up the statements. So there are lots of options and opportunities that are available to you. And even though these services are fee based, you're still going to get your money's worth because you'll be saving money on the hotels that you're booking and the opportunity to stay in these much more comfortable hotels and take much more comfortable flights, and so just be aware that these opportunities are available to you, and you can reach out to Deb. I'll make sure that your information is in the show notes so that way people can reach out to you. Be sure to check that out, and, if you're, again, ready to level up your travel strategy, check her out. You can head to prescriptiontotravelmd.com. My offers page, you'll learn about point strategy sessions, award booking services that I offer as well. And you can set up a discovery call and, get started. But just get started.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So thank you guys for tuning in today. You can also find Deb on Instagram, I believe.
I'm at Explore More Deb and email exploremoredeb@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, I hope this was helpful for you and get you one step closer to just turning your points into your next getaway. All right, guys. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks.